In a world where cameras are everywhere, what used to be invisible is now forever recorded. Unexpected, disturbing, and sometimes unbelievable moments are captured by electronic eyes that never blink. From shocking crimes to acts of courage, from unexplainable phenomena to moments that defy logic. These images not only document life as it is, but also leave us perplexed by some utterly bizarre happenings. They will be the surveillance camera videos you are about to watch today. In Mumbai, in India, the security cameras of a business establishment caught the moment a police officer acted in bad faith to frame an innocent man. From the footage, we can see the man being stopped by a police officer who searches him in what appears to be a routine procedure. However, shortly after beginning the search, the officer takes advantage of the fact that he is behind the man, where he cannot be seen, to take a package of drugs from his own pocket and slip it into the man's pocket, intending to incriminate him without any cause. As soon as he quickly places the drugs in the man's pocket, he then pulls the substance out, showing it as if he had just found it there. Obviously, the man despairs since the drugs were not his, and the other officers present believe the man truly was carrying the product, leading them to arrest him. At the station, the man tried in every way to prove his innocence, leading to an investigation that was open to analyze the facts. With the images from the establishment's security camera, the authorities found evidence that the drugs had indeed been planted by the officer, who ended up being arrested, and the innocent man was released. This time, it was an external security camera from a house that captured the moment when a woman, let's say lacking manners, decided to use the front of the residence as a bathroom. In the footage, we can see the woman, who had been hanging out with some friends a bit farther ahead, stepping away from them and approaching the front of the house in a spot that is, let's say, more secluded. She then positions herself, pulls down her pants, and simply does her business right there, without any fear of being exposed or seen by passers-by.
I'm wiping though, sis.
We can also see in the images that her friends are waiting a bit further back, already aware that she is relieving herself there. Even if she was really desperate, let's be honest, she could at least have looked for a more distant spot, perhaps in some bushes, so as not to soil anyone's doorway. In Ludhiana, a city in the state of Punjab in India, a domestic worker was arrested on suspicion of poisoning a family's food to facilitate a robbery. The woman allegedly mixed toxic substances into their meals, hoping to incapacitate family members and carry out the theft. In the footage from inside the house, we can see her in a panic, running with some belongings while the family members appear to be feeling ill. Local authorities began investigating the case to determine the scope of the plan and whether there were other accomplices involved. Fortunately, the family received medical attention in time and recovered. According to reports, the woman already had ties to local criminal organizations which were under investigation at the time of the incident, and her arrest ended up being, so to speak, expedited. In April of 2023, in Birmingham in the United Kingdom, Kelvin Ward, who was 50 years old at the time, was brutally murdered after the car he was in with his son was repeatedly rammed by a vehicle carrying 4 individuals armed with so-called zombie knives and machetes. The attack occurred as Kelvin and his son were leaving a Kentucky Fried Chicken drive-thru. The primary target of the attackers was Kelvin's son, who managed to escape with the help of a passerby who offered him an electric bicycle. Unfortunately, Kelvin was chased and fatally stabbed in the heart by Leighton Williams, who was 29 years old, and Tyrone Hollywood, who was 17 years old. In April of 2024, after a trial, Williams and Hollywood were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison, with minimum terms of 29 and 19 years respectively before becoming eligible for parole.
Leighton, you got any weapons on you? No. Step backwards!
The other 2 participants who did not directly partake in the murder were Aaron Coates, who was 18 years old, convicted of manslaughter and conspiracy to murder, receiving a sentence of 21 years, and Rasharn Williams-Reed, also 18 years old, convicted of conspiracy to murder and sentenced to 13.5 years in detention. A home security camera captured the moment a huge mother bear approached the front of a house along with her cubs, roamed the area, and then left. The footage clearly shows a very cold place as everything is covered in snow. Because of that, rumors arose that this might be in the north of Canada, where snow dominates and where such bears live. The mother bear seems to be roaming around looking for some food for herself and her cubs, but after finding nothing, she departs. The next day, upon noticing a footprint in front of his house, the homeowner decided to check the camera footage and discovered the huge mother bear right there, which of course sounded an alarm, given that these animals can be very dangerous, especially when with their young. The man, impressed by the scene, after all, nothing like this had ever happened before, decided to share the footage, and the video went viral on social media. In 2024, in Penang in Malaysia, a woman who was 39 years old at the time was caught on security camera throwing hot water at a man with Down syndrome inside an elevator. The attack, which had no motive, happened when the victim, who was 33 years old, was returning to his apartment. At a certain point, the woman entered the elevator and simply hurled the hot water in the man's direction. Naturally, he was injured and needed medical care. The police were called to investigate the case, and through the elevator's security images, they were able to identify the woman, who was also a resident of the building. She was found in her apartment and arrested later that same day. The hospital reported that the man sustained serious burns on the front and back of his face due to the attack. Rumor has it that the woman had some psychological problems and was in a state of crisis at that exact moment. Thus, anyone in the victim's place would likely have suffered the same attack. The James Bulger case is one of the most shocking and disturbing crimes in the history of the United Kingdom. In 1993, James, a boy only 2 years old, was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered by two 10-year-old boys, John Venables and Robert Thompson. They were discovered thanks to an image captured by a shopping center's security camera. The case attracted worldwide attention due to the brutality of the crime and the killer's young age. On the 12th of February of 1993, James was at a shopping center in Bootle near Liverpool with his mother when Venables and Thompson abducted him. The two boys led him away from the site, walking nearly 4 kilometers. During the journey, they were seen by several witnesses, but nobody intervened, believing the three were siblings. Eventually, James was taken to an abandoned railway line where he was brutally tortured and killed. He sustained severe injuries, including blows to the head with bricks and an iron rod. After the attack, the two boys placed his body on the train tracks to fake an accident. Security camera images at the shopping center showed James being led away by the two boys. Following an extensive investigation, Venables and Thompson were identified, arrested, and put on trial. The trial received intense media coverage, and the two became the youngest people in British history to be convicted of murder. Venables and Thompson were sentenced to detention in a facility for young offenders. In 2001, at 18 years old, both were released on parole and given new identities to protect them from public retaliation. On the 13th of July of 2020, in Wolverhampton, in the United Kingdom, Sean Bolam, who was 21 years old, fatally stabbed his friend Paulius Petrasiunas, who was 25 years old, in the corridor of an apartment block. Moments before the attack, security cameras captured the two laughing and talking together. These images were widely shared around the world, as they showed the two men in total harmony just moments before the tragic situation. The attack occurred after Bull became angry about a phone call Paulius received. After the crime, Bull fled to another region, where he was arrested 2 days later with a bag containing traces of the victim's blood. In December of 2021, Bull was found guilty of murder, and in January of 2022, he was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 20 years before he can seek parole. Security camera footage from a supermarket shows a man and a woman who were supposedly siblings kissing each other quickly and discreetly at the back of the store once they realized they were alone. Well, seeing a man and a woman giving each other a peck is, let's say, quite common. But what stood out in this case was precisely the rumor that the two involved were siblings and apparently in love with each other, maintaining a secret relationship, something that is definitely bizarre. It is important to note that the claim they were siblings, despite circulating online and on news sites, is not official, so we cannot confirm whether it is true or just fake news. Japanese prank shows are famous for their creativity and sometimes boldness, as they seem to have no real limit when the goal is to entertain, as in the case at hand. The prank in question involves an elevator whose floor opens unexpectedly, causing the person inside to slide down a chute. As we can see, the person enters the elevator without suspecting anything. Suddenly, the floor opens and they slide down a chute into a safe area, usually while being filmed to capture their surprise and shock. To top it all off, the slide is covered in slime that ends up dirtying the person from head to toe. Because they are not expecting this, or might even think it is some malfunction in the elevator. The victims panic and may even feel ill from the shock. In 2018, Alfie Lamb, a 3-year-old boy, was tragically killed after being crushed by the electric car seat belonging to Stephen Watterson, the boyfriend of his mother, Adrienne Hoare. Stephen Watterson is the adopted son of Nigel Watterson, a well-known former British parliamentarian. During a car ride, Alfie was sitting on the rear floor at his mother's feet when Watterson moved the front seat backward, fatally compressing the boy. What made the case even sadder and more shocking were the recordings taken before the incident, showing Alfie running to keep up with his mother and Watterson, hinting at a possible negligence by the couple, who seemed not to care much about the child. The matter drew worldwide attention, both because of these negligence videos and because Stephen was the son of a recognized politician. After the incident, Watterson tried to cover it up by lying to the authorities and threatening witnesses. In 2019, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter by gross negligence and was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. Adrienne Hoare was convicted of child cruelty and given 2 years and 9 months. Surveillance footage from a business establishment showed the moment when thieves passed by, dancing and celebrating the success of a robbery they had just carried out there. In the images, it is very clear that the thieves walk by looking extremely pleased. One even does a dance to celebrate. As the investigation discovered, they had committed the robbery at the location and, despite some difficulty, managed to succeed, leaving while rejoicing and not caring about the cameras that were recording the bizarre scene. Local police used the footage to try to identify the suspects, but due to the clothing that covered almost their entire bodies, the task proved quite difficult. It is unknown whether they were ever found. 2 Indian women were caught on an internal security camera in a building in Mumbai, in India, as they pulled, let's say, some pranks on the residents there. In the footage, we can see the young women running around the hallways, trying to lock doors from the outside, shouting, and even ringing apartment doorbells. This happened in the middle of the night and, of course, enraged the residents. Many, scared, even thought it could be a burglary or an attack. However, the security camera images showed it was nothing more than 2 young girls with a very tasteless idea of fun. Because people were frightened and did not know what was happening, some called the police, who arrived but found nothing. The girls had already left, but through the camera footage, the authorities saw what really happened, and the 2 were reprimanded for their actions. A scene recorded inside an elevator in China shows 2 men kissing, seemingly in a forbidden or perhaps hidden relationship. China is a society with deeply rooted cultural values and traditions, and issues of sexual orientation are often handled privately. Chinese culture strongly emphasizes family continuity, including marriage and having children. This can lead LGBTQIA+ individuals to hide their orientation to avoid disappointing their parents or facing family rejection. Because of this, the footage drew attention, as it is quite clear that the 2 were concealing their relationship. Although younger generations in urban areas are becoming more open, conservative attitudes still predominate in many regions, especially in rural areas, and so hidden relationships are still common there. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.